Hey, what is up, YouTube? It is the Dual Threat Podcast here, your daily news source for all things sports. I'm Drew.
And I'm Jacob.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well. It helps us out a lot. And if you like what you see, hit that like button, comment any differing opinions you have. We're all for, differing opinions and talking. We've been talking with a lot of you in the comment section. We thank y'all for commenting and stating y'all's opinions. We love hearing from y'all. We love hearing feedback as well. We're going to actually get straight into our Friday Night Lines video. We're making this after the two games for the North Carolina Notre Dame game and the Texas Iowa State game. Those were very good games. We watched both of those, and so we're going to make our picks for Saturday. So Jacob, you want to go ahead and lead us into that?
Yeah, for sure. So starting off, we're going to go to a mid-afternoon game. We're going to go with Clemson minus 23.5. Trevor Lawrence is back. The Clemson Tigers have, after coming off that loss a few weeks ago to Notre Dame, have looked okay, haven't played a few games because of COVID, and it's really just been kind of up in the air about what their team's identity really is. And I think this week we see Trevor Lawrence come back and show everybody in the country why he was in Heisman talks and still should be in those Heisman talks, even though he got COVID and had to miss a few weeks. I think Clemson wins this one big, and I think 23.5 is a big line, and I think Clemson for sure covers that one.
Yeah, we just think that Clemson's really going to come out, run that score up just to show that, hey, we're still a playoff team. Even though we haven't played in a month, we're still going to be that Clemson team. You remember us from years past, and they're going to start getting ready for that Notre Dame ACC championship, which is pretty much official now that Notre Dame beat North Carolina. So we're going to go to our next game down in Kyle Field in College Station. We know a lot of y'all that watch our videos are Texas A&M fans, and we will be taking Texas A&M minus 14.5 against LSU. We know what happened with LSU and A&M last year. LSU was great. They destroyed A&M 50-7, and I think if I remember correctly, A&M has been working out with 50-7 posted in their workout room all year long. I think they've been looking forward to this game all year, kind of like what Joe Burrow and LSU did last year with A&M after that 7 overtime loss. So I think A&M comes out, runs up the score, shows that, hey, we're still a playoff team. I think a lot of people are kind of looking over A&M just because of that loss to Alabama earlier in the year, but they did beat Florida, and they are still number 5 with the playoff rankings. So I think they come out, they run up the score against LSU, especially because LSU's defense is the worst in the SEC yards per play wise. So A&M runs up that score, and yeah, that's our second pick. And Jacob, what do we got for the third one?
Just going off of what you were saying, I think A&M and LSU kind of is maybe starting to become a rivalry. A&M hadn't beat them in like 7 years of being an SEC or whatever, and then beat them 2 years ago, lost last year, and is looking to beat them again this year. So it might kind of have a little back and forth, similar to how like an Auburn, Alabama has over the past few years. But our next game that we're going to go to, we're going to go Florida minus 25. Kyle Trask, if he's not at the top of your Heisman list, he should be, and he is just absolutely dominating every single game, week in, week out. He's 5th in passing yards. He's 1st in passing touchdowns. Only has 3 picks on the season, and that's through one less game than most other people because they had that COVID week. I think they've only played 7 games, and Zach Wilson, who's in 2nd in touchdowns, I think they've played like 8 or 9. And so going just I think that Kentucky team is bad on offense and okay on defense, but everybody thought Georgia was okay on defense too, and Florida put up 40 on them. And so we think that this one's a pretty close to a lock for Florida minus 25. I mean, I can't see Florida scoring less than 40, and honestly, I can't see Kentucky scoring more than 10. So I think that's pretty much our thought process on that one.
Yeah. Florida has been improving defensively week after week ever since that loss to A&M and then that long month break. And so now it's sort of looking like we saw what elite offenses can do against Kentucky They looked good earlier in the year against like Georgia and stuff like that, but Georgia doesn't really have that great offense like Alabama and Florida does. And Alabama puts up 63 on them. We think Florida does pretty much the same. Probably not as much as 63, but around the 50 range or 40, like Jacob said. So that's going to bring us to our next game in Greenville, North Carolina. We've got SMU versus East Carolina. SMU is -12, and that's the side we're going to be taking. SMU is coming off a postponed game against, I think it was Houston, and now they play East Carolina. They lost to Tulsa the week before. Tulsa is currently ranked number 25, I believe, and now SMU has that chance to bounce back against a 2-6 East Carolina team. We think they beat East Carolina, and we think they beat them pretty handily. I mean, Shane Buechele has looked great this year. He's got over almost 3,000 passing yards, 20 touchdowns. And we see that continuing. SMU is a pretty good offensive team, and I think they're going to run up the score against an East Carolina team. So, Jacob, who do we got next?
So for our last game on the line that we're going to be going over, we're going to be talking about the Oklahoma State Texas Tech game. Oklahoma State is home, and they're 11-point favorites, and we think that they're going to cover that fairly easily. Spencer Sanders has looked great recently, even coming off of that Oklahoma loss where they kind of got bullied a little bit. I think him mixed with Chuba Hubbard running the ball and Tylan Wallace, who has been great this season, 656 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think they really come out and show why they were ranked 7, I think, at one point, right before Texas beat them. And I think that's the team that we're going to see, and against a struggling Texas Tech team who hasn't looked great for most of the year. They played Texas close, but Texas has 3 losses. They lost to OU by 34. They lost to TCU. I just can't see this one being particularly close, and I think Oklahoma State has a big rebound game here after losing last week to Oklahoma, game that they really didn't want to drop. So.
All right, so that's going to bring us to what we like to do every week, and that's our upsets of the week. We're all kind of sitting at 1-2 or 2-1. I kind of threw a long ball with my Vanderbilt pick against Kentucky, which almost kind of got close to hitting. I mean, they lost by 3 when they were an 18-point underdog, so I'm going to count that as a W, even though I'm going to put that in the L column. I'm currently 2-1. I think Jacob is 1-2. And Jake is 1-2 as well, if I recall correctly. And I think Jake's got a long ball for us this week. But you want to go ahead and talk about Jake since he couldn't be here with us today?
Yeah, so he was unable to be in our video today. He's got work. But he texted us and he said, everybody, put your money. South Carolina is upsetting Georgia this week. And we looked at him crazy, and we honestly didn't really know what he was thinking. But, I mean, maybe it was after that 48-3 loss to A&M, or maybe it was Georgia losing 2 out of the last 4. I'm not exactly sure his thought process, but, hey, Georgia's mixing it up at QB. They had, what's-his-face, JT Daniels play against Mississippi State, and they only won by 7. I mean, maybe he's onto something, but South Carolina at home, that's his upset. I can't really see it happening, but hey, maybe he knows something that we don't.
Yeah, and South Carolina's coach just recently got fired, Will Muschamp, so we were kind of confused about the pick. I guess he's just thinking it's 2020 and weird things happen this year, so that's who he's going to go with, I guess. He's got Georgia losing in South Carolina, so there's that. My pick of this week's upset, I mean, it is rivalry week, and this is one of my favorite rival games, especially after DK Metcalf picked up his leg and peed to lose the game. They like to call that the old piss game, if I recall correctly. I'm picking Mississippi State to beat Ole Miss. Both teams very heavily rely on the offense this year. I think Mississippi State's 2-5. Ole Miss is 3-4. Mississippi State kept it pretty close with Georgia especially with that new quarterback. The new quarterback actually looked really good, and considering Mississippi State didn't have any film on JT Daniels, I'm going to go ahead and give Mississippi State's defense a little bit more credit than a lot of people are. So I'm actually going to pick them to beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been struggling for the past few weeks, and they looked good against Alabama. I don't think their offense has been that top tier since then. And so, yeah, I'm picking Mississippi State. What about you, Jacob?
So for my upset, I'm going to go to the Big Ten. I'm going to go to a team that I personally believe has been a tiny bit overrated all season. I'm going to go to Maryland upsetting the Indiana Hoosiers. And my thought process on this is you look at Indiana's schedule. They beat Penn State by 1 in overtime. Penn State is 0-5 last I checked. They beat Rutgers by 16. I picked Rutgers on that upset. They beat Michigan by 17, who is also horrible. They barely. I mean, they beat Michigan State by 24, but Michigan State's been bad. And they lost to Ohio State, not Oklahoma State. Lost to Ohio State, a close one that they were getting stomped early on, and they made a late comeback. I think Taulia Tagovailoa, Thria, as we like to call him, the little brother of Tua, I think he comes out here and just absolutely lights it up. They've been on COVID break for 3 weeks or something. They've had their last 2 games canceled. I think he comes out here. He had 5 turnovers in his first game, and since then, he has just looked great. He has 770 yards and 6 touchdowns in 3 games. And I mean, hey, 2 touchdowns a game in one that you just got absolutely stomped. I think he comes out here and has a great day. And I don't even think it's close. I think Maryland wins by over 10 points. Maybe it's a long shot, but I think Indiana's a little overrated. Michael Penix Jr.'s looked good for a lot of the season. Against Ohio State, he didn't. Really nothing did for most of the time. I'm taking Indiana. I'm taking Maryland to upset Indiana.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are our picks of the week. We've got Clemson, Texas A&M, Florida, SMU, Oklahoma State. We think these are locks. We did go 5-0 the last time we made a video, so we are kind of red hot right now. You know, you might want to just take a second look at our picks and maybe think about putting them in your parlays or even just betting on them straight up. And so you also got our upsets. Maybe don't bet on those. Those are a little just riskier, kind of just for fun type things. But again, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Dual Threat. Sometimes we come out with picks earlier in the week when the lines are a little bit smaller, and we post those there, so you get those as early as possible. This week we didn't. We are kind of behind schedule. We made these picks tonight, and we think they're actually pretty good. So thank you all for tuning in. Again, please hit that subscriber button, and the notification bell helps us out a lot. And thank you all for tuning in.